What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Locked In Sports Podcast. I'm William Locke, and joining me today for our 2025 Baltimore Orioles season preview is Luis Barranco. Luis, how you doing?
How you doing, big dog? It's Orioles season, baby. Homegrown Express FC, and I mean BC baseball club settings. How we feeling about the O's? How we feeling about them crab cake Orioles, baby?
It is the homegrown Orioles. They have on the roster 13 players as of March 17th when we're recording this. 13 of their 40-man players are homegrown. They are all look more or less the exact same. It's hard to differentiate them. They have a loaded farm system.
They have a type. They all look nice and juicy this year, boss. They've definitely been hitting the weight room, hitting curls and triceps for a damn sure, my guy. I think it's a Tyler O'Neill influence.
Yeah, that's true. They did sign Tyler O'Neill this offseason. You want me to run through their starting lineup in rotation?
Hey, take it away with home of Baltimore Orioles, home of the Wire, Omar from the Wire. Just talk about it.
RIP. Leading off, shortstop Gunnar Henderson. He, though, important to note, he's dealing with an injury and is questionable for opening day as of March 17th, 2025, when we're recording this. Catcher, Adley Rutschman, who's having a really good spring training. A bit of a down year last year, but he's bounced back, seems like, so far. Center field, Cedric Mullins. Third base, Jordan Westburg. Right field, Colton Cowser. Left field, they brought in, like I said, Tyler O'Neill via free agency this offseason. DH, going with Ryan O'Hearn. First base, Ryan Mountcastle. Second base, Jackson Holliday. And then on the bench, they signed Gary Sanchez to a 1-year, $8 million deal this offseason to be their backup catcher. You got Ramon Urias, Heston Kjerstad, Arkansas product, number 2 overall pick in 2020. And then they also brought in Ramon Laureano.
So you already know, guys, by William pointing those facts. He already is a locked favorite, a Locked In Sports Podcast favorite.
I am a Heston Kjerstad fan.
There you go.
And rotation, there's some question marks already. Grayson Rodriguez went down with some elbow inflammation. As of today, there is no timetable for his return. So that's certainly a concern. He was going to be their opening day starter. Right now, they have named Zach Eflin their opening day starter. A nice little video was posted to their social media account last week to announce that. Starting pitcher number 2, Charlie Morton. You also got Dean Kramer and then Tomoyuki Sugano coming over from the KBO. He's going to be their 4th guy. And then Cade Povich, as of now, is slotted in as their number 5 guy. In the bullpen, the key storyline, of course, is Felix Bautista coming back from Tommy John surgery to solidify that closer role this year. And you got Sir Anthony Dominguez, Keegan Aiken, Yinir Cano, one of the better relievers in the sport, Gregory Soto, Sinel Perez, Brian Baker, and Albert Suarez. They have some injuries, like we mentioned. Kyle Bradish got Tommy John last June. Grayson Rodriguez, Tyler Wells got UCL surgery last June as well. Andrew Kittredge, the reliever, who they signed in free agency this January. He got knee surgery, currently going to be out for a couple months. And then some other guys like Chase McDermott, Trevor Rogers, also injured. So, Luis, more or less the same team. Now, of course, they did lose Corbin Burns. They did lose Anthony Santander. Key losses this offseason, and they have some injuries right now, but more or less the same core with their young guys. What are your thoughts on this 2025 Orioles team?
Guys got to step up. I needed a Gunnar Henderson MVP year, Adley to return to form into a strong year this year. The young guys got to step up. I mean, it's a put up or shut up year. I mean, the AL East is wide open with what's going on up north, up 95. So the division's open for the taking. I mean, the clear questions come up in the rotation. Who is your number 1 starter? Who is the guy you're handing the ball to when, you need to win a baseball game? And you expected Grayson Rodriguez to be one of the guys coming up and being that guy. Hopefully he would take that step. But, we're already back to injuries with him with elbow inflammation. Supposedly he's going to start a throwing program again. But, it's never good when you're starting out the year with injuries in your ramp up. Jackson Holliday is going to have to show me something. Hitting 189 is not going to cut in the major leagues. I know he's one of your favorites. And, like I said, it comes down to these young guys actually showing up. Can Colton Cowser hit 24 home runs again? Can Gunnar Henderson put 37 home runs up and do the business and show up like an MVP candidate? Be that Aaron Judge, Bobby Witt Jr., Jose Ramirez for his team. Adley Rutschman is the machine that makes his team goes, but he's going to have to hit better than 250 if you want to have World Series aspirations. And like I said, I don't know who I can trust in the starting rotation. They didn't replace anybody, didn't replace Corbin Burns. They have money. They didn't use any money. They talked about that they had money, but they didn't use it. So what's going on here, Orioles?
Yeah, that's the key interesting point with this new ownership group. David Rubenstein leads the investment group that bought the Orioles last August for over it was $1.7 billion. The number ended up there. They promised some spending. I mean, we haven't seen it. Now, payroll is up $58 million this year. Most of that coming from Tyler O'Neill. And they also signed Charlie Morton to a 1-year deal, who's 41 years old, and they're going to be relying on him to play a key role in their rotation. Sugano, sorry, they got from the KBO for $13 million. So it's a lot of 1-year deals. Tyler O'Neill's a 3-year deal. They got a ton of free agents coming off the books this year. So a lot of 1-year deals. I think it's still too early to make a judgment on this ownership group. I think they're doing ultimately the smart thing and saving their money to pay the guys that are ultimately going to be the core of their franchise moving forward. Like Gunnar Henderson, give this dude an extension. Like Bobby Witt got an extension, extend Gunnar Henderson. I think he solidified himself as one of the best shortstops in the sport. If Jackson Holliday solidifies himself this year, maybe you give him an extension, get ahead of the game this offseason, or ahead of next season in spring training, whatever. It's usually when these extensions come around. Ryan Mountcastle somehow still hasn't been a free agent yet. Do you re-sign him at some point? Adley Rutschman, obviously that's the other key one. Like Rutschman and Henderson, at some point you're going to have to give those guys big deals. Maybe the ownership group is saving the money for them. I think that would be the smart thing to do while they do these little 1-year deals, 2-year deals for now. But, losing Corbin Burns, there's no way to sugarcoat it. Like even if he wasn't his absolute best last year, still a tough loss. On the flip side though, in Santander, by the way, who hit 40-some home runs last year, that's a tough loss too to replace. And replacing that essentially with Tyler O'Neill as your power bat, I think that's concerning. You're going to need a bounce back year from Cedric Mullins, who was not great last year. Hasn't necessarily replicated the 2021 All-Star form that he had that season. But the key thing I think with this team this year is it felt like they flew a little bit under the radar last year, and they still won 91 games. So if Gunner's an MVP caliber player, and then you just have so much young talent in that farm system that some of those guys you would think are going to have to pop. Now, the spring training injury concerns are real for me. And if Grayson Rodriguez, elbow inflammation, that's just a red flag. If he's out for the season, if he gets Tommy John, I don't know if I see it. I don't know if I see it with this team. But if he's healthy and he ends up giving you 125, 150 innings, okay, I can see this team winning the division. I can see them winning 90+ again. So this is one of the contenders. I think this is the contender with the most variance, in my opinion, this year. I can see everything clicking for them, and I can see them making the World Series. And I can see everything going south and they winning 70-something games. Go ahead.
And I just think it depends on everybody, just if those guys can take a next step to be that contender. I think this team could be a simple wild card team in the AL, but it's just dependent on how good that pitching is. The Japanese acquisition and Tomoyoku Sugano. I mean, you could help me. I know you.
Yes, you got it. Yeah. I've been butchering it this whole podcast, but Tomoyuki Sugano, I believe is the pronunciation.
Yes, Sugano, he looks like a player. I mean, the injuries with Bautista as well is interesting. I think it's going to help that he's back, and it's going to give everybody in that back half roles. But I mean, they're being very overly cautious. And again, I just don't know how this team could elevate from last year. Like, we'll be a good team, but it's going to take those guys taking the next step. They went 91 games, and I think that was very good of them. I still think they need to go find that number one guy, in my opinion.
They, if the season starts well, if this team is first, second in the American League East at the All-Star break, they have to go in and make a trade to get a top arm, whoever's on the market. They have to.
Michael King, Dylan Cease. They got to go get one of them boys.
We just did the Astros podcast. Is Framber Valdez on the market this offseason? He's a free agent. You got Samuel Basallo, the catcher, first baseman, as a as a prospect. You got to say something. Looked like you were going to say something.
I was going to say Sonny Gray. What about that boy, Sonny Gray? You call up the Cardinals and you offer something, you get Sonny Gray. I think he's a good fit for this team. The market, everything just makes sense.
Yeah, Sonny Gray, I could see. I think the Cardinals probably will shop him. I think he's got another year of control after this year on his deal. Off the top of my head, you got Kobe Mayo. Is he going to play a role on this team this year? I like Enrique Bradfield Jr. Is the hit tool going to come along for him? I don't think we're going to see him on the roster this year. Maybe more of a next year thing.
Or he makes the roster in the postseason for defense and just speed in general. Like, you need guys to steal bases and work the base pass.
Yeah, absolutely. The farm system is still strong, but it's leveled off because a lot of those guys have graduated and they're in the big leagues now. They've traded a couple, DL Hall and Joey Ortiz, to the Brewers for the Corbin Burns acquisition that they made last offseason. So you said it at the top. It is put up or shut up this year. If everything goes south and a lot of these guys don't have good years, I think we're going to have real concerns about the Orioles. You know, it was just like leading into last year, the conversation around this team was they're going to be so good for so long. This is the next up and coming team in baseball. They have the best farm system. They have the best youth. And it feels like there's a lot more question marks this year.
Yeah, and I just don't know with this team. Just the pitching just drives me nuts. I think the bullpen's okay. I'm not the biggest Bautista guy, but I think just having him back makes a difference. I feel defensively, Ramon Laureano is something that's very interesting to have, and they have a good mix of both lefty, righty, and switch hitting bats in the lineup. So I don't think that's an issue, but they have to find a step. And if one of those guys doesn't take a step, instead of getting both finding an ace, they're going to have to find an ace and an extra bat to add in my opinion.
Yeah. And they would need a power bat, I think, to put in that middle of the lineup, which you mentioned the righties in the lineup. I think this brings up an interesting point with this team this year is they've changed the wall, the left field wall specifically.
Talk about that.
Yeah. It was just ridiculous how far it was. They moved it back in 2021 because the year prior, in 2021, it was the most homer-friendly ballpark in all of baseball. And they moved the wall way back in left field, and it became just an insane place to hit, impossible for righties. And it was hurting guys like Ryan Mountcastle, who playing a key role. Adley Rutschman is a switch hitter. He hits from the right side against lefties, hurting him against lefties. The Orioles, Camden Yards, in 2021, 139 home runs were hit there by right-handed hitters alone in 2021. That is the most of any team in the sport. Then following year in 2022, when they moved the wall back, it was a mere 82, which was toward the bottom of the league. 2023 was 91, and then last year it was up to 104. They're moving the wall in somewhere between 90 to 20 feet closer to the plate at various points. It's not a equidistant move, but they are moving it up. It's not to where it was originally and before 2021 and prior, but it's like kind of in between. So they're hoping that it's a good middle ground to where it's not too hitter friendly, but it's also not too pitcher friendly. I think that bodes well for guys like Ryan Mountcastle, Jordan Westburg, the guy they brought in, Tyler O'Neill, to be a power bat. Like they were not going to be able to sign free agents if they didn't make a move like this. Free agent hitters, right-handed hitters specifically. So I think this was much needed. I don't know, like they don't have the best right-handed hitters in the lineup. Most of their guys are lefties: Rutschman, Gunnar, Jackson Holliday, Ryan O'Hearn. Cedric Mullins, Adley being a switch hitter. But I do think it's going to make a difference for this team this year, and obviously for the opponents that they face. But it's not going to be such a hitter friendly park, which I think is ultimately a positive. There were so many Yankee games where I was watching where it looked like the guy hit it 200 or 400 feet to left and
8 feet.
200 feet. No, it just looked like a no, like so many home runs or non-home runs, flyouts that looked like no doubt home runs were pop-ups. And it's like, come on, this is ridiculous. So I'm glad they fixed it. I think it's going to play an interesting role in their season.
But yeah, I like I said, be a very interesting team to watch. Like I said, the AL East is wide open. I could totally see this team taking that next leap and getting to the World Series. But that's like with everything going right. And just looking how the East is, if worst case, they're a wild card team and the youth just isn't what they're built out to be. Kind of turns out with that youth of they have a nucleus that reminds me a lot of the Cubs nucleus when they had Rizzo, Bryant, Addison Russell, Javi Baez, and they had that run to make the World Series. But then after that, you kind of expected them to have prolonged, careers and very fruitful careers. But a lot of them just after that just went straight downward or never reached the heights that we all kind of thought. So that's where I kind of can see this team going.
I think if you're an Orioles fan, you would take the World Series. I think the difference with that Cubs team, they had prime Jake Arrieta, which was one of the more underrated pitchers of this generation. Was Jake Arrieta, especially in his prime. The dude was absolutely unhittable. The Orioles don't have that. There's so many question marks in the rotation. You better hope Grayson Rodriguez is healthy.
You do. You have to, or they have to find somebody. So,
let's play the game before we do the number. Let's play the game. Orioles lineup against other pieces in this division, and then we'll do the rotation. Lineup versus the Yankees.
Give me this lineup.
Wow, I'm taking the Yankees.
This lineup versus. I just think this has a better floor than the Yankees.
Yeah, we'll get to the Yankees in a couple days.
Yeah.
Orioles lineup versus Red Sox.
Oh, definitely this one.
Yeah, I'll take this one. Orioles lineup, and then you take them over everybody else. I'm guessing Rays.
Yeah, over the Rays and Royals. Yeah, both of them. And then pitching, what are you taking? Yankees or Orioles?
With all the injuries, I'm still taking the Yankees just because there's so many question marks with the Orioles.
I just think the Yankees are just deeper, more depth. And then Boston, I'm taking Boston over Baltimore as well.
Yeah, I'm taking Boston. I'm definitely taking Tampa.
I'm taking Tampa, and then you're just battling Toronto, where this one's kind of a toss-up.
I'd probably take Toronto. Without Grayson Rodriguez in the rotation right now, I'd probably take Toronto.
Yeah.
So that's a huge concern if you're the Orioles.
I think they have a good pen. I think they have the second best pen in the whole division.
Behind New York?
Behind the Yankees. Yeah, behind New York with Felix and Sir Anthony and Gregory Soto. It's just getting that rotation to be actually competent for the playoffs. So,
yeah, they're not. I mean, they're not going to win the World Series, in my opinion, with the rotation the way it is. Even if everything goes right with the lineup,
you never know. Charlie Morton could just get hit by a comebacker and pitch with a broken leg and get win the World Series. But DraftKings over under not sponsored. The crown is yours. Over under is 87.5. They went 91 and 71 last year. William, how are we feeling?
This might be the toughest pick we've had to do this whole series. I have no idea what's going to happen in this division this year. Like none.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going. I'll go over.
Taking the under. I just think this team has a lot of issues rotational wise in the AL gap. That division is such a hard division to win,
Actually, I'm changing my pick. I'm going under.
Okay.
Going under.
Oh,
I the reason I'm going under is I would rather be on the safe side and take the under on a team that is super young and unproven. Whereas with the Yankees, their over-under is at a similar level, but they have more proven guys. Maybe a little spoiler for the Yankee pod. Not that I think the Yankees are going to be that good this year, but outside of Gunnar and Adley, every single person in that lineup is a question mark for me this year.
interesting.
And the rotation stinks, if we're being honest. No
We're
sugarcoat.
being honest. We're being honest with it. So, hey, that is your 2025 Baltimore Orioles. Tomorrow, we're going to go up to Queens and talk about the battling Mets, the Metropolitans.
Yeah, do we have to do that preview?
Yeah, good question. I met a Mets fan. I met somebody, not a Mets fan. I met a guy from Queens this weekend, and I asked him, "Yo, are you a Mets fan?" And he's like, "Nah, I'm a Yankees fan." He's like, "What do you mean? You go to the Bronx for the games?" So I was like, "Yeah, well, the Mets are just kind of there."
Yeah, that's how it is. That's how it
That's how
is.
it is.
But that
Unless
was
they
the
have,
Orioles.
unless there's $800 million, that's how it is. So
Exactly. We'll get to the Mets tomorrow. That was the Orioles. We're both under. I switched my pick. I'm going under. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll be back tomorrow with the Mets. Until then, catch you next time. Peace out.
peace.